you ready?
Yep.
Good morning, America. Morning.
If you thought Sophie Cunningham's spotlight would fade in the offseason, think again. From her podcast to commercials to national TV appearances, she's quickly becoming one of the league's most recognizable and marketable stars, but shockingly, it now looks like her time in Indy could be coming to an end. In her recent podcast, Sophie dropped a bombshell that cast major doubt on her future with the Fever, and fans, already furious at the organization for not maximizing or appreciating Caitlin Clark's value, are asking the obvious question: are they really willing to lose the one player who consistently stood up for Caitlin? We're about to break down what just happened with Sophie, what she's demanding in her next deal, and the 2 reasons the Fever could completely blow it with her. But first, like this video if you think Indiana should keep Sophie, and tell me in the comments if you don't. Sophie has been everywhere this offseason. Most recently, she showed up at a NASCAR event in Phoenix, rubbing shoulders with Sydney Sweeney, who turned heads in that now famous see-through dress. And she's not just appearing at events, she's capitalizing on the moment. Sophie was front and center in a new Adidas campaign promoting Damian Lillard's latest signature shoes, cementing her status as one of the most marketable faces in the league right now.
Sophie Cunningham?
I'm busy.
Wow! Thank you.
And of course, she made an appearance on Good Morning America, repping Arby's like a pro.
Normally, I don't use this. I kind of just go in.
Rip it out. Oh, you did the big bite.
I did. It's so good. So good.
And sure, she didn't crack Forbes' list of America's most powerful women in sports, where Caitlin Clark landed at number 4, followed by stars like Nafisa Collier, Brianna Stewart, and Aya Wilson. But let's be honest, outside of Clark, it's hard to find.
That's a flagrant foul. It's a hard foul.
You could make a strong case that Caitlin Clark's 3 three-pointers in 38 seconds against the Liberty was the basketball moment of the 2025 season, and yes, the rubber objects thrown onto the court was definitely the weirdest, but the single most important moment belonged to Sophie Cunningham when she absolutely leveled J.C. Sheldon. Up to that point, everyone had been taking cheap shots at Caitlin Clark, and no one was stepping in to defend her. The frustration, the disrespect, and the silence had been building for weeks. Finally, someone stood up for the face of the league, and in that instant, Sophie Cunningham went from fan favorite to folk hero. Her jersey sold out, her follower count exploded, and overnight she transformed from a role player into a national conversation, staying there thanks to her podcast, her pre-game fits, her TikToks, and her perfectly timed viral sound bites. But here's the key. It wasn't just her personal brand that blew up, she created massive value for the Fever. A recent report showed the Indiana Fever now hold the most valuable social media presence in the entire WNBA, valued at $55 million, with the Dallas Wings a distant second at $8.6 million and Angel Reese's Sky in fifth. It's not even close. And with Caitlin Clark sidelined for much of the season, meaning fewer highlight reels and viral plays, there's no question that a significant chunk of that value came from Sophie Cunningham.
Look, the Indiana Fever did not quit posting social media content involving Caitlin Clark. They still continuously posted stuff. But that does show you the power of a Sophie Cunningham as well. We've talked about her on Google Trends and sort of like where she ranks in the echelon. I believe she was like the 3rd most searched WNBA player in the league for a certain span of months. And that all has monetary value.
And of course, she even made an appearance on Good Morning America, repping Arby's like a pro and further proving that her off-season star power is only continuing to rise.
But don't kid yourselves. Being good-looking helps. It helped Tom Brady. I mean, go down the list of good-looking male athletes that have been bankable and that have gone on to make a lot of money. Michael Jordan, being good-looking dudes and being great players. Sophie Cunningham, I think she's next up. She is the next superstar in the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham, international sports celebrity.
Look, the Indiana Fever didn't stop posting social media content featuring Caitlin Clark, they kept pushing it out, but it still shows the kind of power Sophie Cunningham carries. We've talked about her Google Trends numbers and where she ranks among the league's biggest names. For a stretch of several months, she was the third most searched WNBA player, and that kind of visibility has real monetary value. And here's the thing, Sophie is only scratching the surface of her popularity. She's a sports marketer's dream, a fierce, high-impact competitor who actually moves the needle on the court and someone who naturally commands attention off it.
Right here, September the 11th, is when Sophie Cunningham went on an absolute tirade. She went on a path of destruction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games where when this team was still trying to make the playoffs, she went bananas. That first game right there, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 13, 11, 12, 15, 15, 12, 17, 18 points, 16 points, 14 points.
Between Caitlin and Sophie, the Fever have something no other WNBA team can claim, the two most marketable players in the league, both with massive crossover appeal. But there's a catch, Caitlin is locked in for 2 more seasons, while Sophie isn't. Her contract has expired, and she's officially a free agent. From a business standpoint, this should be the easiest decision the Fever make. Re-signing Sophie isn't just smart, it's profitable. And it makes perfect sense on the court as well. Sophie consistently delivers when it matters most, and in a season where
Sophie Cunningham had her best season of her career last year. Sophie Cunningham, you could argue, was the best player on the Fever in the Commissioner's Cup final when they won. There were big games when the Phoenix Mercury, when they went to Phoenix, and we looked shell-shocked. We looked shell-shocked against Phoenix. They destroyed us. The only reason it wasn't a 45-point game was Sophie Cunningham willing the Fever back into that game by herself. And I'm looking at this, and people are so like, oh, she's just a clout chaser. People are so like against Sophie Cunningham personally, some people, that you fail to realize she is literally irreplaceable.
And as for her injury, there's no need for concern. Sophie is already back to training, moving well, and expected to be good as new by the time the next WNBA season tips off. So health isn't the issue here. The only question is whether the Fever are smart enough to keep her. And that's what makes her latest podcast clip pretty concerning for Fever fans, because when the topic of her next contract came up, Sophie dropped some real uncertainty that cast serious doubt on whether she plans to stay in Indiana.
And I think the next team I play for, I want a bigger contract, so then I can buy a house and be homey and cozy.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. That could be the Liberty. It could be New York City. It could also be the Lynx, and it could be Minneapolis. Like, you just don't know.
It could be anywhere.
That doesn't sound like someone who is 100% set on returning to the team she's on. It's one thing to be realistic behind closed doors with friends and family, but saying it openly on your podcast, knowing you have an audience, that's a choice, a message. Clearly, she's not fully committed to returning to the Fever, which raises the question, why? What could she be asking for in her next contract? She mentioned on the podcast that she wants to buy a house, and while many might assume that shouldn't be an issue given how much she makes from brand partnerships, buying a home also means wanting long-term stability. The last thing you want is to buy a house and then immediately move because you're hopping from team to team each year. So she's likely looking for the right long-term fit, as well as the right money, both cash and term, and when it comes to salary, she's probably just seeking a fair deal that reflects the value she brings to the team.
Now the question is, what is she talking about as far as the deal goes? Are we talking $400,000 a year over the next 4 years? That's house money. That's enough for a house. $600,000 per year over the next 4 years. What, a 4-year, $24 million contract? $2.4 million contract, 4-year, $2.4 million contract. She gets $600,000 a year. That's enough for a house. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a max contract to get Sophie Cunningham to stay on the Indiana Fever. It just needs to be a quality contract. We respect what you've done for our franchise contract. We understand what you contribute to this team contract. We're not going to undervalue your contribution to contract. That's all it needs to be.
That doesn't sound like someone who is fully committed to returning to the team they're on. It's one thing to be a realist behind closed doors with friends and family, but to say it on a podcast where you have an audience, that's a choice, a message. Clearly, she's not 100% set on returning to the Fever, which raises the question, why? What could she be asking for in her next contract? On her podcast, she mentioned wanting to buy a house. Logically, some might think that shouldn't be an issue given how much she earns from brand partnerships, but buying a house also requires long-term stability. No one wants to purchase a home and then move because they're hopping teams every year. So, she's likely looking for both the right long-term fit and fair compensation, cash and term that reflect the true value she brings to the team.
That we want to sustain the growth and the interest level in the franchise. I mean, this is about the Indiana Fever. Yes, we have a foundational player in Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston, and we're going to continue to add to that. But I want this team to be the leader in the country, and a brand, an enduring brand, like Apple or something. I mean, we have a real opportunity here.
Before last season, the Fever president talked about wanting to build a brand that isn't centered around just one or two players. On the surface, that sounds smart and balanced, but when you apply that philosophy to Sophie Cunningham, two potential concerns come to mind, ones I don't personally agree with, but that could still shape how Fever management views her. First, they might worry that Sophie brings too much off-court attention. While Caitlin is measured and media-polished, with almost Tom Brady-level control, Sophie is the complete opposite. She shoots from the hip, says what she thinks, and doesn't care how it lands. Her fans love her for it, opposing fans can't stand it. But the real question is how the Fever feel about it, because she isn't stopping. She's openly said that she doesn't care about fines, calling them a joke, and she's backed it up. When Nafisa Collier criticized Commissioner Cathy for not prioritizing player well-being, Sophie didn't hold back either, doubling down and taking her criticism of the league to an entirely new level.
I'm gonna be good today. I am, because I'm just tired of our league. They need to step up and be better. Our leadership from top to bottom needs to be held accountable. I think that there are a lot of people in the position of powers in the WNBA who they might be really great business people, but they don't know shit about basketball, and that's got to change. I said I was going to be good, and I just messed up. But I do. I think everyone's frustrated when NBA players from that side of things are reaching out to us, just like in awe of how terrible it is. Like, that's saying something. That is absolutely saying something when your counterpart is feeling bad for us because of how we're getting treated. I mean, come on. And that's from leadership. That's from, I'll just leave it there. From our leadership, it's just bad.
I mean, how often do you hear a player publicly tell the league's top executive that she knows nothing about the sport she runs? That's not just confidence, that's the definition of 0 F's given. And when Cathy Engelbert tried to defend herself after Nafisa Collier's viral rant, Sophie didn't back down. She went even harder, taking her criticism to a personal level and stopping just short of calling Cathy a narcissist.
I think this is just such a pivotal point in the WNBA, because there are so many eyes on us. There's so many new fans. There's millions, I should say, new fans. And at the end of the day, she's worried about her. In all of her statements, it's all like, well, I got us here and I should. And Cathy, no one cares. Literally, no one cares. Like how you're sitting right there, that's how we feel every time she speaks. Every time she speaks, us as players, that's how we feel.
We can all agree that Sophie says what a lot of players won't. She tells the truth. But the question is, do the Fever really want 3 more years of that level of honesty? This brings me to the second point. Sophie isn't just a teammate to Caitlin Clark, she's her most vocal defender. She goes out of her way to praise Caitlyn's impact on the league and call out anyone who downplays it. She doesn't sugarcoat it or hedge her words. If you disrespect Caitlyn, Sophie is coming for you.
Dude, and it literally like pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What?
Sabrina? No.
No, there's really good, well-known people in our league. I'm not discrediting them. Like, we have a lot of badasses in our league.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah to that. I'm all for that. But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck.
Let's be real. This is the #1 tension point across the entire WNBA right now. Everyone wants to pretend that the league's growth is a collective effort, but the truth is that Caitlin Clark is the engine behind this surge, and somehow it's become taboo to say that out loud, including within the Fever. With the team's president emphasizing her desire to build a brand, it raises a real question. Do they actually want someone like Sophie Cunningham, who will call them out if they aren't using Caitlyn the right way, or do they prefer someone who quietly follows the league's, and perhaps the Fever's, unspoken rule to downplay Caitlyn's impact? These are just my opinions, but honestly, I don't see any other reason not to bring Sophie back. Judging by her tone on the podcast, it doesn't sound like she's getting a strong signal from management that they're eager to keep her, which makes this a strange situation. So, is Sophie Cunningham coming back to the Fever, or is management uncomfortable with how powerful her platform has become?